everybody? Welcome back to Challenge the Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
I'm Avery. How are you guys?
Hope everybody had a nice little winter break there, Christmas vacation and all that. Avery, you do anything special for the holidays?
I had COVID for the holidays, so it was beautiful. Yeah, I had COVID through Christmas. This is the second time in 3 years that I've had COVID on Christmas. So it's a lovely time and a lovely place that we live in. What about you, Max?
Well, at least you didn't have to go to work.
Yeah,
I went down to Florida with my family for a week. That's where my sister lives. So we spent a week down there, and right at the perfect time, as it was like double-digit negatives back here in the Midwest. Florida was even pretty cold. It was actually like 40 degrees when we got there. So not very warm by Florida standards, but hey, got us out of the negatives here, so I'll take it.
Yeah, man. Dude, yeah, so my dad, he was telling me all about it. He's like, well, my pipes won't freeze at 40 degrees. So along with COVID, we had frozen pipes. So it meant truck stop showers for 4 days, and cool. That was gross. But, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But I want to talk about something real quick. Do you guys ever, get burnt out on football? I want these followers to and everybody comment, respond to us, let us know, because it's been a rough football season. I've never been burnt out on football, and a little part of me is burnt out right now. I don't know if it's because the Hawkeyes suck, even though we had a good win today, the Bears is just not fun or enjoyable watching it, and are heartbreaking. But then there's one game that kind of starts getting you back into it, and right now, I'm kind of watching it when we're recording. If the viewers didn't know, which they probably wouldn't, we're watching this TCU-Michigan game. So if you hear us get distracted or, start talking, oh, did you see that? We might blurt it out and talk a little bit about it. But yeah.
Bear with us as we kind of watch this game on the side. We'll try to keep most of our comments hush-hush and save it for an episode we'll do in a couple days where we'll actually recap all of the college playoffs and whatnot like that. But, no, I'm just saying, leave your comments on the YouTube. Tell us kind of how you feel, because, Avery, like you're saying, you never get burnt out. I actually get burnt out every single season. Every single season around this time of the year, just start losing interest in games. I start to skip games. Sunday, it's noon, you have a whole slew of games on, and I'll be like, I would rather just watch whatever show I'm doing on Netflix. I start to lose a little interest up until at least playoffs start happening. As the playoffs start going on and coming near an end, that's when I kind of start regaining a little focus in the NFL, and I'm like, okay, things actually matter again. Now I can hone back in, but I go through a temporary slump kind of toward the endish middle as well.
And I'm wondering if your slump isn't as bad this year because you were kept away from football because of coaching in the beginning of the year, so you're still kind of fresh. You're probably that mid-season glow right now where it's football, and yeah.
That's probably a huge part, just the fact that I had to miss so many games in the beginning of the season. That probably has a good chunk to deal with how I'm actually doing real good right now. No, I'm still watching everything just because I wasn't able to for so long. So now I'm finally, I got my football back.
For sure, man. But guys, comment, post, let us know, because
give us your thoughts and feelings on that. We want to hear what happens with you guys. But to start this episode off, we're actually going to talk a little bit about the World Cup. I know we kind of missed it over our little holiday break there, but I figured better late than never, as this is one of the most electric World Cup finals that there have been. Absolutely crazy. Just, it was Argentina versus France, for anybody who doesn't know. The game ended with penalty kicks, or you call it penalty shootout. I personally am a huge fan of penalty shootouts. I think, that is the reason I watch soccer sometimes, is I'm just praying that every game goes into a penalty shootout. I think it is just the most right, because it's goals. It's just straight goals, like back to back to back. But I'll give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on how the game went. First of all, this was probably Lionel Messi's, the Tom Brady of soccer. Probably his last game. I think he's done after this. He was the key factor that really, really won it for Argentina. He scored the very first goal and actually had a very nice pass to a teammate for the second goal to go up 2-0. But don't count France out just yet, because Mbappe actually scored 2 goals himself back to back. There was a minute 33 between his 2 goals that he scored at the very end of the game to tie things up 2-2. So, goes into overtime. The way soccer overtime works is you have 2 15-minute periods with a little bit of a halftime in between. In the first period, Lionel Messi scores again for Argentina, 3-2. Come down later, I think it was the second period, Mbappe once again tying things up 3-3. And once that overtime ends, that's when you go to that penalty shootout. Lionel Messi was first for Argentina. Mbappe was first for France. Both of them made their shots. But then by the end of things, Argentina ended up making 4 of their 5. And I don't even think they shot all 5, because once you have a guaranteed winner, like, you stop there. But Argentina made 4. France only made a couple. So by that point, game was called, and boom, Argentina wins it in the shoot. Man, it was absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So, does that count towards the final score then? So was it 7-5, or no, and 7-5, or is that 2 separate scores?
It's 2 separate scores. The way they report it, or whatever, like if you actually go on Google and look at the score, the way they kind of report it is final score 3-3, overtime, and then they have penalty shootout or something, however they abbreviate it, 4-2.
Man, okay. Yeah, I was kind of confused about that. Sorry, guys. Good old Max Duggan threw a pick, so that was fun. But
yeah, anyway, let's get into our real sport of preference here. Let's talk a little bit of the NFL. We won't do our typical big game recap and all that stuff. We'll just kind of go over how that playoff picture is updated and kind of what it looks like right now. So, first things first, the AFC is pretty well set. As far as clinched teams go with a playoff berth, the AFC right now what we got is Bills, Chiefs, Bengals. They're all clinched. Then we have the Jaguars in the South, which could give up that spot as one of the other teams. I think the Titans could come in and take that from them. But Ravens and Chargers, they're clinched. And then currently the Dolphins as well in that final spot. Avery, what are your thoughts on the AFC playoff picture right now?
Yeah, so it's going to be really intriguing with the Dolphins, because they kind of control their own destiny at this point, and it sucks because Tua's out. But the Dolphins, they control their own destiny, especially for that last playoff spot, because the Patriots are also 8-7, and I believe the Jets are 7-8. So if the Dolphins win both those games, it's winning they're in. They're gonna take up the 7th playoff spot, and so I don't think the Dolphins will be there. Tua's had his 3rd concussion, I heard, against Green Bay on the year. I think they're shutting him down for the year. Player safety is way too important. And so I think the Patriots sneak that last playoff spot.
They could. Let's see. If the Patriots beat the Dolphins in this first game, if they had a tied record in the head-to-head, because they do play Bills next, so you'd have to think they're going to lose that one. So a Dolphins loss to the Patriots, win to the Jets, if all things come out tied or equal, it would still go to the Patriots, right?
Yes.
NFL does the head-to-head.
Yep. Yeah, so I really, that final playoff spot really, really intrigues me. And I really think the other one that intrigues me is the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, Ryan Tannehill, out for the year. They benched Malik Willis, a rookie, which it's like, oh, you're going to give up on this kid already? And Joshua Dobbs. So it looks kind of like the Titans are dead in the water. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to lead the Jacksonville Jaguars to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's where they currently stand. Currently, the Jaguars are in, but the standings right now are also slightly skewed. With the Titans have already played their Thursday night game, so
Right.
they technically have one extra loss already. I don't know exactly where they stood before that. Did they play the Titans already? Did the Jags and the Titans play yet?
Yeah, in the beginning of the year, they're in the same division.
Who won? Who won that game? Because that would technically be the tiebreaker head-to-head at the moment. Jaguars won it.
Yep, Jaguars 36-22.
Okay, so regardless, the Jaguars would have still been there, even if the Titans wouldn't have just lost a game. But
Right.
Jaguars also have Texans coming up, and then the Titans again. So you have to think they're going to beat the Texans. I mean, everybody but one team is beating the Texans so far. So
Let me look up the AFC South conference right now, because what I heard is it would be play and you're in, essentially. On the week 18, the final week, it would be a playoff game for these guys. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
It's
So
7-8 Jags, 7-9 Titans, 4-10-1 Colts, 2-12-1 Texans.
yeah, so if Jags beat the Texans this week, they'll be 8-8, and if they beat the Titans, they'll be in. But if the Titans beat, who do they play this week? They play
Their last game that they have coming
is the
I don't have
Jags.
it on here.
Okay, yeah. So if Jags win this week against the Texans, which everybody knows they probably will, they'll be 8-8, and the Titans will, if they win week 18, they will actually hold the AFC South, and the Titans will go because they have more division wins than the Jaguars. It comes down to the third place tiebreaker. So, yeah. So. The Jags, if they want to go to the playoffs, they got to beat the Titans in the final week of the season. It doesn't matter if if Jags come out and lose this week. That'd be rough. That would be really rough for them. So,
but also as Bears guys, I don't know when we want to talk about this, now or in the Bears segment, but if the Jags did come out and lose to the Titans, and the Titans become 3-12-1, Bears get the first round pick in the draft.
not quite. Texans have to win 2 more games.
They have to win both of them?
Yeah, because we beat the Texans in the beginning of the year. We own the tiebreaker against the Texans. That 23-20 game, and I don't know if you remember this game.
Wait, no, but we would be 3 and...
yes, you're right. We would be.
They have a tie.
Yeah, we'd be 3-14. So yeah, they would have a tie. So yeah, we would be the last place. We'd have the number 1 overall pick. That is so embarrassing.
We just need them to win one more game.
You know what would be great? You know what would be great about that? We could trade it for so many picks because we wouldn't take anybody worth. Because number 1 pick, everybody's talking about it right now. It's Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, right? Yeah. Bryce Young from Alabama, C.J. Stroud. Why would we draft a quarterback? We got Justin Fields. We can lateral that pick and move down to a team like Detroit that, maybe they move on from Jared Goff. And they could trade the Colts, but I'd rather move with Detroit because we could snag both of their first-round picks. Here, take our first. But yeah, so that's intriguing. But yeah, we kind of went off topic there a little bit. It's all right. The other thing interesting about the AFC, man, is the Bills and the Bengals play this upcoming week, and that will do a lot for seeding, especially if because the Bills, they own the number one. Like right now, the AFC runs through Buffalo. And if they lose to Cincinnati, it pretty much gives Kansas City the fair shake that it will run through Kansas City once again. But don't count out Cincinnati, because if they beat the Bills this week and the Chiefs drop one of the last two games, which is unlikely, it could run through Cincinnati. So what do you think?
I think, I don't know. I think the Bills look really good, of course. I thought they looked really, really good last year and arguably deserved to go. But you think of the Bengals last year and like, oh man, Bengals could give them a run for their money. They're starting to do the same stuff. They're on track. They're only 11-4, so they're only one game behind the Bills and the Chiefs right now. And I think it'll be a tough game. I think it'll be a really tough game for them. And the Bills arguably have a little bit more to play for with that first round seeding at stake. So potentially from that scheme of things, the Bengals, hey, we're in. We know we got our berth. It's all good. But the Bills, hey, we want that first round bye. We want to finish this thing.
So does Cincinnati. Cincinnati could get this first round bye. It's it's a little more unlikely, but yeah. They beat the Chiefs, and if they come out this week and they beat the Bills, Cincinnati beat the Chiefs and the Bills this year. So if somehow the Raiders pull off an upset against Kansas City and Cincinnati wins against the Bills and the Ravens, then the first seed goes through Cincinnati, and you got to think that's in the back of their mind too, because the Chiefs might be resting their starters. They might rest Patrick Mahomes week 18. So you got to think, maybe there's that shot that Cincinnati's thinking, okay, hold on a sec,
I see what you're saying. I don't know. I guess I just see it a lot harder for the Bengals to do. I guess technically, if they're still fighting for it, they're still fighting for it. But I feel I'm a little biased toward the Bills. I've thought the Bills were, gonna be the Super Bowl, maybe not champions, but arguably champions. I think the Bills are going one way or another. I think they actually pull it off this year. Have we amended the overtime? Is the overtime rules still the way they were?
Yeah, no, they're amended now, so each team gets a chance. So that's exciting.
Exactly. So I think they should have been there last year, which you got to look at teams like the Rams too. Rams, were there last year, whatever, and look how that went. This year they suck. So teams aren't the same year to year, but at the same time, just the Bills look like they are the same team that they were last year. And last year, I thought they should have been there. If they were there, I arguably say they would have won it. I'm Bills all the way in the AFC right now.
See, and I don't necessarily agree. I think the most constant team in the AFC is to be between the Chiefs and the Bengals. Because right now, the Bengals are on a great winning streak. The Bengals have won... The Bengals have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've won 9 straight. Cincinnati's won 9 straight, which is hard to do. People are not talking about this, and they're getting hot, just like they did last year. They're getting hot at the right time. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson on the defensive side of the ball. They're getting hot. And, Buffalo's been hit or miss a little bit this year. And our Chicago Bears hung in with Buffalo until, the third quarter or fourth quarter? Which is...
I forget.
Yeah, it was a lot closer at near the end of the game than it should have been. And yeah, it was a weather game. Okay, it was at Chicago. I get it, but at the end of the day, I think Cincinnati is the hottest team in the NFL right now. And
I can see that.
Yeah.
I guess it'll really come down to this week because you say the Bears hung in there up until, and we'll get more into the Bears score later on, but yeah, the Bears hung in there for a good stretch with them, but the Bears have also hung in with, 10 different teams that they've lost to so far? I mean, we lost to the Eagles by 5 points, and the Eagles are 3-2. They're like the best team in the league right now, and we hung in, so I'm not using that as like a gold standard, like, hey, we hung in with the Bills for a few quarters, because by the end of the score, look what happened.
For sure, but that's not the only game that's been close for the Bills. In their last 5 games, the Bills scores, besides Chicago, Miami, 32-29 on a last-second field goal, 20-14 against the New York Jets, with Zach Wilson starting and not Mike White. So, but the 24-10 against Patriots, so they beat them pretty handily. But then a field goal game on Thanksgiving, 28-25 against the Lions. And so if you're saying, they're the best team in the NFL, which I think, they're borderline best team in the NFL, it's kind of like, okay, but why are they keeping every team close, at least later in the year? Which, you
got to think sometimes the best of the teams, that's just what happens. Like, it gets down to that argument sometimes, of like, oh, they're undefeated. Yeah, but they've had some close games, but sometimes teams just, that's how they function, is like they get to that just like point of like, hey, we are going to be good enough, consistent enough, and whatever that we are going to win. We might not win extravagantly, we might not put 1,000,000 points on the board, but we can guarantee you by the end of this game, we will have more points than you do. Yeah,
for sure. And regardless, at the end of the day, they both have a top 5 quarterback. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen are both top 5 quarterbacks. You could say it goes Patrick Mahomes, probably Josh Allen, then Joe Burrow. Or, you could interchange all 3 of those guys. Like, you can literally, they're all on the same playing level. They elevate their team's success. It's a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning era. But now
I love Joe Burrow. Like, when I'm talking Bills and Bengals, the quarterbacks are the least of, like, my thoughts when I'm talking about these teams. Because, obviously, they're both stellar quarterbacks that I absolutely love. But when it comes down to other players, that's where I start making my thoughts of, like, okay, Bills, receivers, absolute studs. Bengals, they have Jamar Chase.
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I think no.
Those are not
T. Higgins
stud guys. Those are good guys. They are top-notch receivers. Don't get me wrong, but you're talking about Stephon Diggs. You're talking about
Gabriel Davis.
Like, you're talking about those guys in comparisons to Higgins and Boyd. They don't even compare.
Hold on. T. Higgins is better than Gabriel Davis. I hate to burst your bubble. I think T. Higgins is better than Gabriel Davis, for one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Then, if you're going on their slot receiver, I think Tyler Boyd is a lot better than Isaiah McKenzie.
That one I'll give you.
Yeah, I think Tyler Boyd's better than Isaiah McKenzie. So, when you look at their team, I think the Bengals on the offensive side of the ball wins at almost every position. Quarterback, tie. I'm going to say tie.
Line.
Hold on. Running back, Devin Singletary, the Bills, or Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon, of course. Wide receiver, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. I'll give Stephon. Stephon is over Jamar as of right now. But and then you go number 2, T. Higgins, I think, is better than Gabriel Davis.
That one's questionable to me. I think Gabriel Davis, he has more touchdown reception. Or I'd have to actually see that stat, but based off of what I've seen, which granted, I guess I don't watch a ton of Bengals games, but I swear Gabriel Davis has a touchdown reception, if not a couple touchdown receptions, like every Bills game.
Yeah, but I mean, I think T. Higgins just like his like quality of play, like because he has the yards, and also I know we're not really talking about this game, but TCU just had another pick six, so that's incredible. But anyways, Isaiah McKenzie, I think he's a great slot receiver, but I also think that Tyler Boyd's a better receiver than that. Another thing, the tight end position. I really got to give it to Dawson Knox and the Bills. I think the tight end position, Hayden Hurst, he's been solid, but Dawson Knox definitely better. So yeah, the Bills, they win some matchups. So I really think it's 1A, 1B right now. And the Bengals are on a hot streak. And where is this game played? Because that's going to be like the big like.
This game is in Cincinnati.
I think Bengals take it. I hate to say it. I think Bengals take it. Home game. I think Bengals pull this off this week. And it's going to be exciting because it's a Monday night game.
The home field advantage definitely does bode well for them. They have a real good chance. If the Bengals do take this, they definitely take all my, like, okay, yep, if they can pull it off on the Bills, like, they're going back to the bowl. No question. If they don't outright win this game, Bills all the way. Like, they're taking it. I still think the Bills, in theory, should stack up better against the Bengals. If you played 10 times, I think the Bills win 7 of those 10. But, those 3 exist.
And they existed last year because, I don't know if you remember, no, they didn't. The Chiefs were the ones that beat the Bengals.
Exactly. And the Bills arguably should have beat the Chiefs in the first place. So
yes. So this is the first matchup that I think Joe Burrow and Josh Allen have faced against each other. This is going to be a rivalry to come, and I'm really excited. It's going to be, Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and and Josh Allen, and it's going to be incredible to watch.
It's going to be a fun one for sure. This is probably the most exciting game we have on the slate for this week. Outside of that, just, Dolphins, Patriots, who's going to get in on that side of things?
Yeah.
But and whoever does get in on that matchup, like you said, they're running through the Bills or they're running through the Bengals. Like, they're not going to make it past that.
No, yeah. Like, honestly, I think what's going to happen, and this is my prediction, in the divisional round, I think it will be the Bills. I'm going to name my 4 teams. I think it will be the Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, and Chargers. I think the Chargers make it to the divisional round. And Ravens hit or miss because I think Lamar's out. So, and he's still been out. So, yeah. But,
well, we'll move into the NFC side of things here. NFC is a little bit more open, not as many guaranteed people in. The Eagles obviously are in, won their division. Vikings are number 2, also won their division. The 49ers are currently in, guaranteed, at least with a playoff berth. They could still give up their division, but one way or another, they will be in the playoffs. Buccaneers currently winning their division. That one's a little bit like, they could give it up pretty easily. They could not be in the playoffs at all. The whole South is just like, I don't know what the hell is going on down there, but whatever. Cowboys guaranteed in with a berth. And then we have the Giants and the Commanders also currently kind of holding those last couple spots, but could give them up. And the Giants and the Commanders, that's one big thing, is they both have ties. And those ties are currently the reason that they are in those last couple spots. Because you look at all the other teams that are potentially 7-8 or could be 8-7, one of the matching scores without those ties. All of those teams could have a much better shot or be in currently if those ties didn't exist.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that it's all about the tie. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about this. So one thing is Jalen Hurts is still out, right? So do you think Minnesota could snag that 1 seed, or do you think they're too hit or miss? And
There's no way. I frankly do not believe in Minnesota at all. Just all the stuff that we've kind of given about them with like they had a negative what do you call it? Lose or winning margin, whatever it was, scoring margin. They were the only team that was 10-3 that had a negative margin. A lot of their games they seem to seemingly pull out of their ass. Like the Colts game a couple weeks ago. How in the hell do you come back if you're the Colts? How do you give up what were they up 24 to 0 lead?
no, it was 33-0.
33 to 0 lead, and you let the Vikings come all the way back. I don't know how the hell that happens. You would arguably say, wow, the Vikings are just that good, but I don't think that's the case. I'm not a huge believer in the Vikings right now. Call me crazy, but I don't think they deserve to be number 2. Maybe they deserve to be in the playoffs. I'll give them that. But the 2 seed? No.
So yeah, I think they actually lose, and I hate it because it doesn't bode well for us, but I think they actually lose their last 2 games of the year.
Yeah.
I think they lose against Green Bay, and they lose against Chicago, because we played them tough. We came back, and we were leading at the end of the game 21-20. And I want to just throw this out there because there's this stat out there that if you flipped every one-score game, the Bears would be sitting at 10-6 right now. Or no, 11-5. I'm sorry, 11-5. The Bears would be the 3rd seed in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I just kind of
look. I'm partially glad we're not. Just
me too.
Better draft stock.
Yeah, it's fine. And the crazy thing about that stat is the Vikings would be 3-13. It's insane. It's insane. Or 3-12. Sorry. But one thing, I think the Vikings, I think they're frauds. We've been calling it all year that Minnesota has been frauds. I think they started hot, and I think the one person that keeps them in every single game is Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. He bails them out so often.
Bails them out all the time. And so, I don't think they're even I think they could get beat by the Commanders. I really do. Yeah. I really think they could be beat by the Commanders in the playoffs.
And you look at some of the other teams that the Commanders beat the Eagles. They're one of the Eagles' 2 losses. The Commanders have also beaten the Bears, who hasn't. And they're actually looking pretty they're in the playoffs. Remember earlier when they did match up against the Bears and we were like, oh my god, the Commanders, if we don't win this game, but they're in the playoffs right now. They have been doing really well for themselves for what they are. And yeah, I think the Commanders, if they match up with the Vikings in that very initial wild card round, I think the Commanders take it.
So do I. I do 100%. The one team that I think will lock their position pretty handily in the playoffs is the New York Giants. And I don't think they're that great, and I think it's going to be a first-round exit. But it really sucks for the Commanders because I think they're better than the New York Giants. But they play the Browns and the Cowboys. And if for some reason the Eagles lose this week to the Saints, which I don't think it'll happen, but Jalen Hurts is still out, so there's a possibility. Gardner Minshew will be playing. So there's a possibility there. Dallas is going to come to play hungry against the Commanders in Week 18. And Definitely. So I don't think... And the Browns are still a tough out. So I don't think the Commanders might not... I don't think the Commanders make the playoffs. I hate to say it. I love the Commanders, but I don't think they make the playoffs. And there's a couple of teams I want to talk about. So Seattle. Right now they're the 8th team.
Yeah.
They play the Jets, and then they play the. Sorry, they play the Jets, and then they play.
Here, while you're looking at that, just some of the other 7 and 8 teams that would be in competition with the Commanders, would it not be that tie? You have the Seahawks, they're also 7 and 8, the Lions, the Packers, the Buccaneers, who are in already, but could potentially lose their division still to the Panthers or Saints. But all those teams are 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Panthers and Saints are 6 and 9, so a couple more wins with a couple losses by the Commanders could potentially be in that same boat right there.
Yeah. So the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks sneak in. They're 7 and 8. They play the Jets and then they play the Rams. But the Rams always play Seattle close. They beat Seattle the last time, and Baker has been going on a tear, showing everybody he should still be a starting quarterback. Sure. So I think the Rams upset Seattle in Week 18, and they don't make the playoffs. And I think Detroit beats Chicago this week, unfortunately, and we'll get into that. But I hate to say it, but I think they lose to Green Bay in Week 18, and we see Aaron Rodgers in the playoff again. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Green Bay, when we called them dead and out, they're going to be back in the playoffs as the 7th seed, ready to go and beat their arch nemesis of the playoffs. Because Green Bay has 2 arch nemesis. They love to beat Chicago in the regular season, but in the playoffs, you know who is their the Dallas Cowboys' kryptonite in the playoffs is the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
And they would match up wild card weekend against the Dallas Cowboys that they love to beat just as much as they love to beat Chicago. And I hate it because it breaks my heart because I know how that feels every single game. And Dallas has had a great season, but I think Aaron Rodgers wins in the wild card round.
They might not match up in that wild card round, though.
Yeah,
they could still move in place. They could lose to the Commanders, which would bump the Commanders up and keep keep Packers out most likely. But their positioning could still change a little bit. They could still. I guess they would have to win that last game to really change their position because they've already played Thursday, so we already have that one.
Yeah,
they beat Tennessee. Cool.
Yeah, Tennessee. We just talked about that. They're going to lose their division to the Jaguars. But yeah, man. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't think Tampa Bay wins the NFC South. I said it a couple of weeks back. I think the Panthers got it. And did you see, I looked at the score, I didn't watch the game, but it looks like that the Panthers destroyed Detroit. Destroyed Detroit.
Did I see that? I think I might have seen that, but yeah, I don't know. Detroit was on a real hot streak, and then haven't they lost a couple games now in a row?
Just the Panthers game. But the score was 39-17. And Carolina is coming. I hate to say it, and it's great because they play each other this week. So whoever wins Bucks-Panthers, whoever wins this game is going to win the division. And I want the Panthers because I don't want Tom. I hate it. I feel bad for Tom, but the Bucks suck. I've watched them play too many times, and they suck. They're terrible.
I feel bad for Tom slightly, but at the same time, a part of me is like, I can only feel so bad for you. You should have been gone last year. You should have been out. You're not good. And it's that typical kind of like, I hated the Patriots, and I still low-key hate the Patriots, mostly just because they were too good for too long. And so I still have that slight spite toward Tom Brady a little bit, where I'm just like, God damn it, Tom, leave. Go away.
Yes.
Fuck off. So part of me is like, hey, if you don't even make the playoffs this year, you have to be done, right? Like, you have to quit football. You have to retire. Go away. If you can't even make it, and it sucks that anybody in that division is going to make it in the first place, because when you really look at the breakdown of it, none of them deserve to be there.
No, yeah, but I I like the Panthers. They fired their coach, Matt Rule, in the beginning of the year, and everybody thought they were going to tank, and, like, they haven't tanked. They just suck. I mean, everybody in that division sucks. I mean, they got rid of Baker. They're on their third quarterback of the year, Sam Darnold. It's just incredible to me. Like, it's an incredible story that they are still in contention right now. I like it. And, you know, I like the Panthers because they're the lovable losers.
I can get behind that. I've got nothing against the Panthers. They've always been one of those teams that are kind of just off my radar. Not really disliked or liked by any means to me. Speaking real quick, though, of how bad the NFC South is, I almost forgot to mention, currently the NFC East, every team in the NFC East is in the playoff lineup right now.
Yeah, I know we've mentioned this in the past. That's just insane to me, man. Like, that division is tough.
It is stacked. I would hate to be in that division because, I mean, we've already seen how it's going to affect the Giants and the Commanders. Like, they're at risk of not making the playoffs just because they can't win their division.
Man, if we were in that division, we would have went 1-15 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have went 1-15. But on the flip side, do you think, this is off topic, but do you think the Bears could win the NFC South this year? If we were in the NFC South, do you think the Bears could win the NFC South?
Did we play any of the teams in the NFC South? We had to have, right?
I don't think we did. Chicago Bears.
We played the Falcons, didn't we?
Okay, yeah, and we lost. Okay. Well, and it was a close loss, but still.
All of our games. All of our games.
24-27, another one-score game. Yeah, I remember that game. Justin Fields threw a pick at the very end. I don't know if you remember that, but
So that being said, no.
I
don't think we would have.
I still think we win. I think
we're not. Maybe we're not last in the division.
I think we're one of the 6 and 9 teams that are. When Tom bails out,
would be one of those like in the middle, 2 or 3. But I still don't think we win it. We still wouldn't have won that division by any means. Avery, we are 3-13 or 3-12 or whatever.
We're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Avery, we are out. We are guaranteed out. There is no playoff for us.
Speaking of the team that I do think is going to win the Super Bowl this year,
yes,
it is coming from the NFC side, and it's a team we have not talked about yet. Their defense is rolling, and they got a third-string quarterback starting for them, and it's the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy. That team is rolling.
I am in total agreement with you there. I like the 49ers, they look hot. And you wouldn't have guessed it from early on in the season, especially after they lost their very first game to the Bears, of all teams. But Brock Purdy started, and he came out firing, and he's looking great. Purdy looks great. Everybody else on that offense is just – you want to talk about a stacked offense, kind of like we were arguing about the Bills and the Bengals. You go to the NFC side, and I don't even think it's a question. You're thinking of the 49ers every time. You're like, yeah, Deebo Samuel, fucking right there. Brock Purdy, he's a killer right now. I think they are stacked.
So I see like 2 teams getting hot, and we mentioned it, Bengals and the 49ers. The 49ers are on an 8-game win streak, similar to the Bengals. And both quarterbacks have moxie. I would love to see a 49er Bengals Super Bowl. It'd be incredible. I don't even know who I'd cheer for. Probably 49ers, but I love Joe Burrow. So I don't know.
Be a tough one.
I would love that Super Bowl. That would be the best Super Bowl I've seen in my lifetime. Besides the Bears in 2006. But
that would give me the same conflictions I had last year with Bengals Rams. Because on the one hand, I was like, the Bengals, fuck yeah, let's go. And I have a friend who's a big Bengals guy, and so I was obviously supporting him there and whatnot. But also Matthew Stafford, I wanted him so badly to leave the Lions and win a Super Bowl just immediately that I was like, oh, I really want the Rams to do it.
See, I wasn't too conflicted last year. I'm not a big Stafford fan, never have been. And I thought he took the easy way out, even though, Detroit sucks. But look at them this year. They're not bad.
I wouldn't even say taking the easy way. Like, how many years did he play with Detroit that they didn't make a single playoff? And he's a good quarterback. That's the issue, is he was so severely underrated for being with Detroit for so long. To immediately turn around and win a Super Bowl, like, to me, that's just a middle finger. That's like a, you guys were holding me back this entire time. Fuck you.
For sure, yeah. No, I agree. But at the same time, I don't know. Something about Joe Burrow, man. Joe Burrow.
I do love Joe Burrow, and I like the bank. It's almost that underdog team feel. Even though they're not really an underdog this year because, they played in the Super Bowl last year. Underdog who? What? They played in the Super Bowl last year.
It's weird because people still forget because they start off so slow. They were 1-4 in the beginning of the year. But yeah, it's crazy to me. 1-4 and now you're 11-4? You're nuts. But speaking of the 49ers, like we were talking about NFC, I really think Brock, when does the other shoe drop with Brock Purdy? Like, he's got to have a bad game, right? I mean, Tom Brady never had a bad game. Like, well, in Tom Brady's first year, Tom Brady never had a bad game. He won a Super Bowl. Kurt Warner never had a bad game. He won a Super Bowl. He can't have a bad game because I think Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl this year. He was the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
I think he should be. I think he should be the starting quarterback for the Niners regardless. They don't want nothing against Garoppolo. I personally am a fan of Garoppolo. It's just that the 49ers have already made it real clear that they don't want him as a long-term guy.
It's not even Garoppolo. It's Trey Lance. Because you spend a first-round pick on a guy, and he's only been in the league for a year. And you don't see him on the field because he couldn't beat Garoppolo out last year. And then he gets hurt this year. And you have such a small sample size that it's like, what do you got in him? And it's hard to go from a first-round pick to a seventh-round rookie.
Sure. But I think I mentioned it, our last episode, though, is who's winning you games? Like, I don't care about the logistics. I don't care, he was our first round and we only took this guy for, like, great. You had a crappy first-round pick and you had a steal of a seventh round. Don't waste your mental capacity trying to force this first-rounder to work. Go with the seventh-round guy that's winning you fucking games. Like, that's just simple.
I agree. I would love Brock. I would love Brock to end up pulling it off and being the starter for long term, but I really don't know. I really hope the 49ers stick with Brock, and that's the only reason I want them to win the Super Bowl is because of Brock Purdy. I feel like that's the thing.
If they do, it solidifies his spot on that team.
Because, like, if I wasn't, I would have to go, and I'm not a big Cowboys fan, and I hate it, but at the same time, I got a buddy that's a pretty big Cowboys fan, kind of like you were saying with Bengals, and I would like to see him be happy, even though I can't be happy. He's had a rough go with being a Baylor fan, and Dave Miranda sucks now, so I'd really like to see him be happy and win a Super Bowl. And the Cowboys have a good team, and I like Dak. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Dak's very severely underrated, and Dak gets a lot of shit for no reason. So, if I had to pick a second team, I would like the Cowboys to win.
I don't hate the Cowboys. I think they look good. I'd like them to do better than a lot of the teams that are in this matchup. I'd like them to kick the shit out of the Vikings again. That'd be cool.
Oh, yeah. Right there. Like, them kicking the shit out of the Vikings in the beginning of the year made me love Dallas even more. The only thing, they made us look like fools when we played them, but at least we can say it was 28-23 at one point of the game.
Sure. But yeah, biggest thing is I think to wrap up our playoff conversation here, if there is a team that's going to beat the Eagles on the NFC side, it's going to be the Niners.
I think so.
I don't think anyone else comes out close. Cowboys could try to give them a run for their money, but I think the Eagles are taking that one.
And this is a hard thing too, because the Eagles and the Cowboys, they're both 1-for-1 with backup quarterbacks against each other. It's kind of weird how it worked out, but the Eagles beat the Cowboys earlier in the year when the Cowboys quarterback was Cooper Rush. Doesn't that feel like a lifetime ago, by the way, Cooper Rush?
That doesn't even feel like this season. That feels like a whole other season to me.
No kidding. And then this past week, the Cowboys beat the Eagles, and they had Gardner Minshew and not Jalen Hurts. So they're both 1-for-1. Dak and Jalen have not played each other yet. And I want to see that happen in the playoffs, because I want to see which one is the better team, because they're eerily similar. Both those teams, they have great receiving core. They both have a good running back. You know, they got Tony Pollard and Zeke, and they have Miles Sanders. And Jalen, I think, is better than Dak. But I think Dak's not that far off. I think it's 1A, 1B. So I do think the team that could beat the Eagles, the only three teams, is I really do think it would be the 49ers or the Cowboys. Who's your four teams, if you had to pick? Who's going to be in your NFC Championship? Two teams in an NFC Championship. Who's there?
I think it's the Eagles and the Niners. Cowboys are good, but I don't think they're quite good enough. I think, kind of like we were saying with consistency, I don't know if the Cowboys have quite the consistency they need to endure a long playoff, you know?
Yeah, I don't think the Eagles are frauds. I don't want to say that. But I don't think the Eagles are as good as their record indicates they are. Especially now that they lost Lane Johnson for the year, their left tackle. And Jalen's coming back from an injury. It's like wishy-washy now. But I think if I'm picking NFC Championship, I'm going 49ers Cowboys. And I think 49ers beat the Cowboys. Beat the snot out of the Cowboys. I hate that. But, yeah, I think the 49ers beat the Cowboys. Who do you got in the AFC Championship? I know I picked four teams, but who do you got AFC side?
It's between three teams. It's between the Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals. That could, honest to God, go any of three ways.
Oh, yeah, man. I think, believe it or not, I think it will be, it'll be Bills, Bengals, and it's going to be the complete opposite team that wins this week. So I think it'll be one.
I think we're going to get a little flip action going on.
I think you get the battle, but they won the war. So whoever loses this week might be the best case scenario for that team.
I get you. Well, moving on, we'll wrap up this episode with a little bit of Bears talk, since we do have a couple games to talk about, even if they are not the utmost exciting or really mean anything to what's going on right now. But let's get into Bear Central. We played the Eagles first a couple weeks ago, before Christmas, or on Christmas, however that worked. We lost. Go figure. Sorry, Avery, I know you had a bold prediction there, but on the bright side, the Bears did what the Bears do. We only lost by a single score. We lost by single digits.
You know what I've been saying? I'm burnt out, and it's because we keep losing by single-digit games. It's making me pissed because because you get your heart ripped out of your chest every single week by losing by single-digit games. You're like, oh, we're going to win this game. And, and then you're like, I don't care about the draft. I don't care, if we're the number 2 pick. We're going to win this game. We're going to be amazing, and we're going to shock the world. Everybody on sports media is going to talk about us because we just proved it, and we beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And then at the end of the game, you look at the score, and you lose by 1 score.
I think, honestly, last year I got a lot more upset by our losses than I have at quite a few this year. I think this year I've chalked up enough of the season to just a wash in the first place that, frankly, when we keep it within a single score, I'm just happy by the fact that, hey, we kept it with a single score. I'm not overly upset. I'm like, hey, I'm going to hang my hat on we're really close, which means in a year or two, I think we're just going to be great.
And, I sure hope so. I know Justin's looked good this year, and that's one thing you can always say and hang a hat on, that Justin Fields is hypnotizing. He's amazing. Like you watch him play, and you're just hypnotized because it's like, man, you see what can be. You see what can be the future of the Chicago Bears. Every time you see him break up 60-yard run for a touchdown, it just hurts. It hurts. Like, I'm at the stage you were in the beginning of the year because I've been trying to fake it all year that I don't care. It's the draft. And being a big Bears fan like I am and like you are, you can only fake it for so long. And then you get to the denial stage and you stop watching the Bears games. Yep. I'm almost there. Good thing it's almost the end of the year.
Hey,
because
there's 2 more games left. We ain't making any playoffs. I'm going to watch and enjoy it.
Yeah. And then we lost to the Bills. And we kind of mentioned that in the beginning.
That one was a little more tragic, 35-13.
But
not quite single score.
We had him. We had him for a good portion. It's similar to the Cowboys-Bears game, as we mentioned earlier in the episode. Like, we were fighting with the Buffalo Bills.
See, and those are the games that piss me off more. Like, a 5-point loss to the Eagles, I'm not too upset. We're obviously going to lose. Fucking what is this? 22-point loss to the Bills, who, we're going to lose. That's odd. But to hang in there for so long and be as close as we were and then proceed to just lay down and roll over, that's what pisses me. That's what I've always hated. It's like last year, we'd be close for a while, and then we'd completely let it get out of hand. And that's the big thing that has made me so much more satisfied with this year is just, we're losing a lot of games, but we're not losing them by just absurd 20-point, we lost, we're giving up now and letting them roll all over us kind of scores,
Yeah, for sure. And I get where you're coming from. I just don't like the last-second losses or, the last couple-minute losses. And that's what Philly was. I don't know if you remember, but it was it wasn't a last second, but it was a last 4-minute game. We were winning 20-30.
I was going to say, we were leading up through the third quarter, weren't we? It was it was the fourth that we finally gave it up in.
Yep, it was 9-8 minutes in the fourth, and then we couldn't do anything. And those are the games that hurt. When you're winning 3/4 of the game. Because we were up, 13-0 because Santos, once again, missed a fucking field goal. I am so done with this guy. I don't care. I don't care.
Did I say it or did I say it?
He missed a PAT. Okay, and this is the thing. I don't know if you remember, but they wouldn't even let him kick at half, right before half, because they don't trust him anymore.
No, that was on him. They looked to him to are we going to take this? And he said no. He said no, not going to try. So they trusted him per se. It was his call. He was the one that called the shot, and he said, "Nah, I ain't going to do it," which I can somewhat respect. It was windy. He wasn't on. We arguably needed to make up for the point lost earlier anyway. But
it doesn't hurt to try. You got 5 seconds left in half. What's the worst that's going to happen? Well, a return for a touchdown.
I was going to say, it gets run back or
but I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just Santos. He's broken. He's broken. It's time to move on. Like you said, it's time to move on.
We just need a new kicker.
And I mean those two games. That I'll tell you what, the Eagles game is pretty much the one that deflated me the most, and that's why like at that stage where I'm at.
And that's the Bills game deflated me more because it's like I said, like the Eagles. I was so happy with only giving up 25 points to the Eagles. The Eagles, on average, before the Bears played them, were scoring almost 30 points a game. And we held them under that. That, like, to me, I'm like, hey, good work done. You held them below their points per game average. The Bills, 35 to 30, that's an embarrassing loss. That's a loss that's going to piss me off. Not the Eagles.
Yeah, and maybe it's because I'm going to be honest, that's like the very first Bears game all year that I've missed. And I watched it with highlights. Like, I just watched the highlights a couple days ago because I was trying to fix my pipes. So, but yeah, so like maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I'm not as mad because I didn't even watch it. Like, I just looked at the final score and I was like, oh, 35-13. Sounds about right. And then I watched the highlights and I was like, oh, we stuck with them. Like, yeah. And so, like, yeah.
It adds insult to injury. Because, like you were saying, last-minute losses suck, and that's basically what happened here, just a little bit sooner and by a lot bigger margin.
For sure.
That's what annoys me.
The Bears' defense gave up in that third and fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They gave up. Which, it was cold, and we're 3-12, and I would have gave up.
To some degree, you have to understand it. You know you're out of the playoffs. You're not upsetting the Bills by any means. Like, you know they're in regardless.
There's not much of a rivalry between the Bears and the Bills. Like, so, like, yeah, I mean, give up just at that stage. So, like, that's why I understand. But, like, the Eagles, like, it does frustrate me. But it doesn't. I don't know. But we got Detroit, so...
As I say, getting into our upcoming game here, we're going to play Detroit again. They're 7-8 right now. We could potentially give them a nice little 8-8 to try to get back into play. So we're kind of playing for upset right now. We win this game, we can kind of hold them out of the playoffs, and that'd be our only real accomplishment there.
Yeah, and I don't even really want to. Like, I don't want to hold them out of the playoffs. Like, I would love to see Detroit in the playoffs because, like, believe it or not, like, Detroit's not a team that I hate in our conference or division. Like, if I'm being honest, I hate Green Bay and I hate Minnesota. I hate both those two. I don't like Minnesota, I don't like Green Bay, but Detroit, let them go to the playoffs.
I definitely would prefer. Well, and because you have to think about our own selfish benefit a little too. Is like, hey, you beat Detroit, and you're risking some drafting seeding. So
yeah,
like,
you go from maybe the first to the third, and then the only team that I do want to beat the rest of the year that I don't care if we miss out on one or two spots is our last game of the year in Minnesota, because I want to show everybody that they're frauds right before the playoffs.
I would love to just like destroy Minnesota, or even not just destroy, like even if we just win with a very close, barely win, whatever. But like, I would love to beat Minnesota just to be kind of like, hey, get off your high horse. Y'all aren't that good.
Oh, you guys are 13-3. Well, you just got beat by a 3-14 football team. So congratulate, yeah.
Of course, you're gonna hear the arguments, I'm sure, of at that point Minnesota's gonna know they're in. They're gonna know they have their division clinched. They may or may not rest their starters, and like, even if they do have their starters in, you can always make the argument that like, oh, they weren't going balls to the wall because, you know, they're in.
Yeah,
so
for sure. So it's going to be an interesting last 2 weeks of the NFL season.
It will. All right, and we'll give you guys another episode on Monday. We're going to record again. We'll get our college stuff out of the way. We'll talk about some of the bowl games that have happened. We'll go through the FCS championship. That'll be coming up. The semifinals are already done with. Mostly, I just want to get done recording here so we can really hone in on the last quarter of this TCU game, which we will talk more about on Monday for you guys. But until then, like, subscribe, comment on our YouTube or however else you want to do it. Let us know how you feel about your football burnout late in the season. Avery?
Go Horned Frogs. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Bear down!